Morning. Welcome to my third episode of the fishing vlog. Because I've chosen to do more vlogging, especially fishing vlogging, I've changed my channel name yet again. Those people who are eagle-eyed amongst you will notice that I've changed my channel name quite a few times. And knowing, if I knew back then what I know now, I would have chosen a very generic, very vague channel name just so I could cover everything that I have covered in my channel. But because I'm not gaming as much, or I'm not streaming, because streaming games feels a lot like forced conversation, if that makes any sense, and the weather's turning to very nice, longer days, hotter days. I want to be outside more, and I don't want to be in my little shed playing games. It was alright during the winter or COVID, and that's what I used it for, but now I'm back in England. I have the opportunity to fish on various different locations, and like sea fishing and terrestrial lakes. I think terrestrial is probably the wrong word. I'm going to take full advantage of this. And one of the fishing YouTubers in my local area I reached out to, well, I just said, I'd love to work with you at some point, and we're gonna get together in the next few weeks and fish together. I'm not necessarily gonna use that opportunity to create content for myself, because I have very little experience with sea fishing. I don't really want to try and do like three things at once. I want to learn from Eastbourne fishermen, and I want it to go in. I don't want to be worrying about where my gorilla pod's going to go. I don't want to be worrying about everything else. I just want to learn. If he gives me footage, which I'm not counting on, if he gives me footage, that's great, but I'm there to learn from him and improve my game, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I've changed my name to Fishing Odyssey. I chose Fishing Odyssey because the Odyssey was a journey, but it was also my my gamer tag. So I've kept it a little bit sort of in the same direction as it has been going. Today I'm on soft rubber lures or plastic lures, whatever. I'm on that technique today through quite a few reasons. One, I don't have any, or no, I have a tiny little bit of sea fishing kit, but I'm under the belief that a rod is a rod, and a reel is a reel, and line is a line, and as long as you've got what the fish you're after eats, then you would be okay. I mean, I'm not under any apprehension that I'm going to actually catch anything in these early weeks, because the sea is so vast and I am so small. And I just want to be out there. I want to be out there showing the universe that I'm ready for these big epic catches. And yeah, so I just want to be outside pretty much. I've also been thinking recently that in two parts, but it doesn't matter. I mean, this conversation we're going to have in a moment is through my naivety about the sea fishing sport, but it's also stuff that I've witnessed but I've researched and I've read and I've watched that you don't necessarily need, in my humble opinion, you don't necessarily need sea fishing kits to go sea fishing, and you don't need coarse fishing kits to go coarse fishing, and you don't need pike gear to go pike fishing, and all of this type of stuff. And I'll tell you why I think this. I've seen quite a few YouTube videos and read a few articles where a guy who thought exactly the same as I do went carp fishing with fly rod, fly reel, and what the uninitiated would call trout flies, and he caught carp. And I've seen videos of people going pole fishing, which is a discipline I haven't done yet. Luckily I have family members who are into pole fishing, so that'll be a future video. These people have been pole fishing in the sea around the seas around Cyprus, and there was a guy on a video that I watched last night who was sea fishing but with floats, and that's a very coarse slash pike technique. And so I think these techniques and environments are almost interchangeable. I do admit I don't know anything about sea fishing, and I don't know anything about pole fishing, so I'm not going to sort of hold that up to any scrutiny at this point. You can't set up an experiment to look at this. Well, you could, but it would be so complex. But that is what that will be what a future goal of this channel will be, to see if I can catch sea fish on handline, or carp on a sea fishing kit, or something. It's very sort of not traditional methods of fishing, if that makes any sense. The diehards or the traditionalists will inevitably say, oh, you do this for this reason and this reason, and yes, I totally understand that, and I'm not here to sort of say, oh no, it can't be done, or you should do it, because I know nothing about the sport. My knowledge of fishing is when all of these people who you see on the seafront, Eastbourne fishermen, Carl and Alex, I watch Carl and Alex a lot, they have been fishing pretty much all their lives, and they know a lot more than I do. So I bow to their sort of their knowledge. But it also comes from a place where I'm not really into the whole consumerism part of the fishing, where if you want to go carp fishing, you have to use this little bit of rubber tubing to do this, and this bit of graphite gum to do this bit, and you need these hooks, and you need this, and to make these more and more elaborate rigs. Thinking about it as I said it, and my limited knowledge in carp fishing, I know why they have these, what I consider elaborate rigs. You have a weight, you have a floating element to your hook, and so you want to sort of keep the hook presented to the fish so the fish can see it, because carp are mainly, from what I'm understanding, bottom feeders. So you have your weight at the bottom to keep the hook in, or the hook in the area, and you have the hook above the weight presenting pink colours, different flavours, all that type of stuff. But when you've got little bits of rubber tubing, and you've got little cheeky little bits of thing that cost £5 a pack, and you don't really understand what they do, it's very sort of If you're buying every little bit that you see these, I don't know, Corda guys or Guru guys fishing with, you've just wanked away £100 and you don't really know what anything you have does. So I'd like to be able to take the consumerist part out of fishing. Back in the day, back in the 50s, in the 40s, when rods were basically made out of nice bits of bamboo, or even before that, you didn't have all these clips and helicopter parts and bits of rubber tubing, because they hadn't been invented, or they weren't necessary, or there would be something why these bits of superfluous tackle have been invented. I don't know whether it's... Where's my bottle? Juice around here somewhere. I don't know whether it's for the industry to make more money, or whether it's these air quote fishing pros, and they think, oh, okay, yeah, I could do with a thing that does this to make the hook do something, and they make it happen. But people have been fishing traditional, primal, hunter-gatherer fishing, whatever you want to call it, for thousands of years, and they hadn't needed all this fancy tackle. You see on the Nile or African rivers, these men who fish all their lives, and their dads had fished and their granddads had fished, they use these huge cast nets that they, like a weighted circular net with a rope attached, and you just throw it out, the weights sink to the bottom, gather up all the fish, and they pull the net in. That type of fish, or that type of fishing, isn't really done, because that's subsistence fishing. We do fishing here for sport, for hobby. I see the trawlers going out with their nets and pots and other bits and pieces, but that's commercial fishing. So obviously fishing needs to reflect, or the fishing kit needs to reflect why you're doing it. So if you're fishing for sport, you've got a rod, reel and a lure. If you're fishing for money, you've got a boat, you've got a crew, you've got pots and nets, and you've got a sonar, and you've got petrol, diesel, whatever to buy. So it's very this total conversation, this 13 minutes might not make any sense because I haven't had my breakfast yet. When I was in France, I was catching fish on what I was under the impression that it was a hand line. It was a little plastic frame, a bit of line around it, a float hook, all that type of stuff. And I caught the majority of my fish on something very similar to that. And it turns out, when I got back to England, or when I was speaking to my uncle, who's been fishing the majority of his life, these bits of equipment were the hook lengths for pole fishing. Didn't know anything about that. I didn't know pole fishing. I knew of pole fishing, but I didn't know how sort of complex and all the little gribbly bits that you have also. And that's what put me onto the thing that you don't necessarily need, put me onto the idea that you don't need all the fancy kit to fish. To the point where I bought off eBay a hand line reel. It's basically something as big as my hand, a hollowed out bit of wood from an African sapelli tree, I think it was, and you sort of spin the weighted end, and it just puts itself out into the sea or the lake, and you reel it in on your hand. And I've yet to use that in England, so that'll be a future video. I'm not going to say how I think it's going to go, because it could go badly, could go splendidly, but yeah, that's my pre-breakfast rant about the commercialism Is that even a word? I don't know. A commercialism about fishing kit. So today we're near Eastbourne Harbour. We're in a little cove. There's big boulders in front of me, and there's big boulders to the right of me. Turn, see that? You can see that. There's boats coming in and out, and I've chosen this spot. Let's see if we can put that back down. I've chosen this spot because it's quiet. It's a little, in my mind, it's a shelter for where fish can hide, get warm, and avoid seals and avoid propellers and boats and all this type of stuff. There's rocks over there, which you can walk out on, and the ocean greenery, for want of a better word, it's going to be, that's highlighted how much I don't know about sea fishing. I don't even know what the green stuff is called. It's not going to be lichen. It's not going to be plankton. Yes, could be, but some sort of seaweed, some sort of seaweed that grows on the rocks, and I'm going to have to do some reading of my own to figure out what this is. And yeah, and so that's what I'll probably be doing today when I finish. Haven't caught anything of yet. I've only been out about an hour, but the sea has started to get a little bit choppier, and yeah, if I catch anything, I'll make a short. So there, that's what I'll leave it for today. My name's Fishing Odyssey. If you like what I do, please like, share, subscribe, hit that notification button. Paste plant your head on the keyboard, put some words in the comment section, and join me tomorrow for another ranty video. Hopefully I'll catch something. This is Easter weekend, so supposedly lovely weather this week. But yeah, hope you all have a good week, stay hydrated, and I'll speak to you all another day.